Hey there. I am so glad that we are still talking about fossils. I hope you enjoyed our fossil lab that we had, kind of fun with fossils Friday. Yeah, so fossils. Let's take a look at this little presentation real quick. So, fossils is a preserved remains of what was once living, and that's made by having that living thing rapidly buried and compressed. And that's usually, we will find them in sedimentary rocks. And you will remember from learning about rocks that sedimentary rocks happen because the rocks are weathered or eroded away. And then those rocks are transported or moved, and then they're deposited. And then there is cementation where they're just compressed and they just become like a rock. Um, and of course, this would have happened very rapidly during Noah's flood. So I'm going to skip just a couple of spots here. There are four main types of fossils. We have molds and casts and trace fossils. Um, and it is just a whole or part of that organism that's been preserved. So molds and casts, we talked a little bit about that before. A mold happens when that organism dies and it's buried in sediment, okay? And then it changes to rock. And as that organism bodies decompose, we have an imprint or mold in the rock. So it's kind of like printed, or maybe it's divoted out. So you see, and this is the part that I'm like, oh my goodness, this is how God made things. This is present day scallop, and look at these fossils, look just very similar, almost the same as the fossilized ones. Here is a cast, and a cast is when that organism dies, buried, the body just kind of rots out, but the hole where that body was is filled up with water, with minerals, and then it eventually becomes like a rock. And we looked at some of those cast fossils. I didn't have a cast fossil of a snail shell, but look at the modern day snail shell cast of a fossilized snail shell. We did have Amorites, and we had a mold cast, a mold of an Amorite, but you can also have a cast. So the difference would be the mold would be indented and the cast would be not indented. So it'd be kind of like this. And then look, our snails are gastropods, and there's a mold. So this mold was like popped up where you could press around it. Sometimes molds are like indented. And then there's the cast, which was the whole thing. All right, so here's your question. Which is the cast of the clam and which is the mold? What do you think? Let's see if you got it right. The clam mold was on the top, and the clam cast was on the bottom because it was the whole entire part there, like 3D. I think of a cast as being 3D. So dinosaur bones really aren't bones. They're fossilized casts of bones that they've been turned into rock. But that's what dinosaur bones are. Trace fossils. We didn't talk about trace fossils yet, but trace fossils would be leaf prints, burrows, the coprolites. Remember, we're looking at our coprolite trails, footprints. There's a leaf imprint. We looked at a lot of those when we were looking at the fossil park from Colorado. Dinosaur tracks. This week we're going to be learning and looking a lot more at dinosaurs. I have been and seen dinosaur tracks in the rocks. It's so cool. And you guys remember this one? You got to hold this one. The coprolite looked almost exactly like that picture, right? These are worm tubes that were made by worms as they burrowed through the soil. Every once in a while, you'll get a whole or part of a body preserved. So there we have a spider that was trapped in the amber of a tree sap. So the tree sap and the spider is just trapped in the middle of it. And here, this one's super cool, a saber-toothed cat skeleton. This was found in California. So it got stuck in the tar pits, and there it is. All right, and sometimes you can get them where they're frozen.